Hello, everyone. Just pretend we had some cool, jazzy intro music. Welcome back to the Just Your Average Fangirl podcast. My name is Jordan.
I'm Natalie. We got a lovely little episode for you guys today. We're going to kick it off by talking about some of the new Loki episodes, episode 2 and episode 3. And then Jordan's going to talk a little bit about Battlestar Galactica. And then we're going to end it with a Mike Birbiglia show, My Girlfriend's Boyfriend. So, shall we just jump right into the Loki episodes?
Yeah, so spoilers for episode 2 and 3 of Loki. So if you haven't watched those or don't want to be spoiled, this is just your warning. Yeah, so Natalie, I'll let you go first because I have a ton of thoughts, especially on episode 3.
Oh my goodness. I really, really like the series so far. I think, yeah, I don't know. I'm still debating on whether or not I like WandaVision more than this. Clearly, the Loki is a lot better than The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, even though I hate to say that because I love Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie so much. But yeah, definitely, Loki is so good so far. They're doing such a good job with carrying the plot and making sure there's cliffhangers for each episode, and you're just not bored at all. And I just love that so much, and it's really fun. And it is so weird to see Loki just existing for so long. And I saw this one TikTok, and the person was saying how it's weird to realize that Loki has powers because it's not something you get to see very often. And you just see him in this natural state, and he's just existing and speaking so much. It's still like just awkward in my mind for me to watch, but I think Tom is doing an amazing job. And I also love the fact that Loki is bisexual. I love to see it. I'm so happy they added that in there. I thought it was amazing. To talk a little bit about specifics of the episode, what's her name? Sylvie? Yeah.
Mhm.
Sylvie, what an interesting character. I didn't get to say my thoughts on this last time, but when I first saw her, I had mixed feelings on the portrayal of her because it didn't seem like she would be Loki from another universe. Because at one point we see different variants of Loki just being flipped through and some sort of hologram thing, and they all have a sort of Loki aesthetic. But for her, she's got the blonde hair. She just does not look like she would be a Loki in my head. And I saw this one thing on TikTok, and I sent it to Jordan, and it was basically saying that she is a different character. Do you remember what the character's name was?
It was Sylvie, the copycat enchantress.
Yeah. So, and they also talked about how her costume has these circles, which in the comic books alludes to that character. So I definitely think that's where they're going vibe-wise because she looks exactly like the comic book rendering of the Enchantress. So I'm more okay with knowing that now because I know that they're not trying to get at, oh, it's a variant of Loki, but it could be another character. Or I could just be completely wrong in this, and the TikTok person could also be completely wrong. But it's interesting. And I also really like the chemistry between the two. I think it's really interesting. Their banter is good. It's weird because they're very similar to each other in many ways, so it's hard for them to coexist with each other in a way. There's just too much like backlash or just resistance with each other, but you can start to see that melt away a little bit, and we're getting to know more of them and just the compassion and everything. One thing I really want to point out, just gushing over Tom Hiddleston in this, because he's doing such a good job. It makes me so mad how he's just so talented, and he's doing such a good job with his portrayal of Loki because he hasn't really got the chance to dive deep into Loki's character, but in the movies you can see him. He's probably doing the most work in all the movies because there's always such a good layer of depth to Loki, and you can always see how he's struggling with everything and see how where he is in life, what he's thinking, and all of that stuff. But for this show, you really get to see it, and just thinking about the moments when he's talking about his mom, and there's that realization, and how he fits in with his family, and how he fits in even at the was it TBA?
TBA, yeah.
TBA, which is really interesting. And oh my god, don't even get me started on Mobius. I love it. I think the show's doing so well. We haven't seen him in a while. And I'm kind of upset by that. But wait, hold on. Are there 8 episodes in the series?
I think there are 6.
6?
Yeah.
We're halfway done already? Oh my god. Oh,
Weird.
that makes me really mad. I saw something that there might be more seasons. I could be completely dreaming this, or TikTok is fake, or online is fake. I forget how I stumbled upon it. But I saw this one thing where it's like, Loki is going to have 3 more seasons, which I would love, by the way, but I don't know if that's actually going to happen.
What? The internet spreading lies? How dare they?
I sure hope they're not lies. But I think this is a kind of series that you can have it pretty stretched out, especially if there's only 6 episodes. Also, real quick, I just want to throw this in. In all the interviews, they're like, oh, it's 6 hours long, it's a 6-hour special, like, blah, 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 blah. The episodes itself, it may say in the timestamp it's almost an hour long, but the episodes itself, not including the stupid credits, is 45, 30 minutes, and that makes me really mad because they're just lying to us in that way. But I got sidetracked there for a second. My ideas are a bit scrambled, but Jordan, do you want to speak on some things for now?
Yeah, so yeah, I want to echo a lot of thoughts. So I didn't get anything spoiled. The only thing I got, I guess, spoiled for me was because I get a lot of fan art on my TikTok page. So there was a lot of things with that quote and Loki with the a lot of like the bisexual flag, for example. And I just didn't initially I was thinking, oh, are people just reading into that line or but no, it's confirmed. The director, I think, has even said it on there Instagram, and now we don't just have one, which I think Loki being bisexual is just so perfect, but 2 characters because he says I think something he says a bit of both, probably same as you. So we have 2 canon MCU LGBT characters, which I think is awesome. Yeah, so I thought that was great. Just everything in the train scene I thought was really cool because when we first were introduced to her, I thought, oh, she's just gonna be kind of an evil bad guy. Maybe she'll have some tragic backstory or whatever, and Loki will have to stop her. But they're going in definitely in a different direction than I anticipated because as of now, it seems that they're just kind of dependent on each other, which is why they're both falling. But you do see sort of something else blooming there a little bit when they're on the train talking about their mothers. What they're talking about their mothers when Loki, opens up about his mother and what she meant to him. That scene where Loki is kind of getting drunk and singing, which I am here for Tom Hiddleston singing all day, every day. And yeah, and you see a little moment between them. And even though at the end of it, Sylvie says, oh, you got drunk and you ruined everything or something like that, you do start to see a bit of a bond forming between them. And I just thought, okay, episode 2, I thought was fine. I love Loki, so I love following that character, but I don't think there was a ton of things that happened. I thought the whole Pompeii scene was really cool and Loki figuring out, oh, this variant is hiding in apocalypses. I thought that was very cool. And the an eventual reveal, I thought that was really cool. But I think episode 3 for me was really, oh, because there was a lot more to Sylvie that than I initially thought there would be. She's a very interesting character, and I think that both Tom Hiddleston and I don't remember the actress's name, but the actress that plays Sylvie, I think they both work really well together, similar to how Owen Wilson worked really well with Tom Hiddleston. What else? Oh, I thought I don't know why, but I love the set design of the moon planet they're on, or the moon they're on. I thought it was really cool, especially at the end when they're trying to get to the rocket. Um, and it's just like this cool, you see them using their powers. I think Loki levitates a building for a second. It's just so cool to see them both use their pretty, like, they both have unique powers, which I think are somewhat unique. For example, Sylvie can mind control or create illusions in people's minds, which is something Loki doesn't know how to do, but he can also shapeshift, which is something that she doesn't know how to do, which I think that's a very interesting dynamic. And I just love that whole scene. It looked very one take. I don't think it was one take, but it looked that way, which I thought was very cool. And another thing I wanted to point out is the sort of twist, which I thought was really interesting. So initially in episode 2, there's a conversation between Loki and Agent Mobius, where Agent Mobius says, "Oh, I was created by the Timekeepers. This is my purpose," or something like that. And but then in episode 3, uh, Sylvie says to Loki, "Oh no, they were human. They're all variants. The people that work at the TVA, they were humans or whatever. They had lives before this." And that was really shocking to me. I did not expect that, and it makes me wonder because I think my sister pointed this out, where Sylvie even calls the Timekeepers fascists. It makes me wonder if going forward we're gonna focus on fighting the Timekeepers, as in the Timekeepers are really evil, because they also talk about deleting Loki. Does that mean maybe deleting his memories? Is that what maybe they did with Mobius, who was likely who was a person before all this but doesn't know it? So it makes me wonder what happened when all these TVA people find out, it's been a lie. They weren't created by the Timekeepers. Does Sylvie have legitimate reasons for wanting to, it seems, take down the Timekeepers? Are they really evil? So yeah, I just thought that was a really compelling twist, and it makes me, because initially at the start of the series, at least I thought, oh, it's gonna be about them trying to track down this Loki, this other variant, and Loki's gonna have to outsmart this Loki. But it seems like it's going in a very interesting direction, which I didn't really anticipate. I feel like I don't want to say if I liked it more than WandaVision yet or not. I want to see if they carry through on this, because as much as I like both Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision, they both do kind of have a bit of a finale problem. I'd say Falcon and Winter Soldier was less interesting to me than WandaVision. So I mean, but I feel like this show is taking more twists and turns than WandaVision or Falcon and Winter Soldier, because with Falcon and Winter Soldier, in hindsight, you see, oh, they have to take down the flag slappers, or what are they called? Not the flag slappers.
Oh, flags, staffers.
The organization.
Flag smashers.
Flag smashers. Okay, yes. So oh, they have to take down, and it's about them deciding what to do with the shield, and sort of that's the basic trajectory. And WandaVision also has a basic trajectory in hindsight of one sort of accepting Vision's death. It's a very oversimplification of that event, but to put it bluntly, whereas I feel like this one has kind of taken some different road turns along the way. So yeah, I think those are my initial thoughts, at least.
Yeah, I've gotten into the habit of writing down notes because I keep forgetting stuff I want to say. So now I won't forget. Going back to what you were saying with the twists and turns, I really like that too. Especially for WandaVision, it didn't seem one note. We were left in the dark for most of it, which I guess that was WandaVision's twists and turns, because you didn't really know what was about to happen. But for this, in the beginning, yeah, I thought it was going to be them trying to find Loki, the other Loki variant. But then you find out who the Loki variant is right away. So it's just a completely unexpected turn and all of that, and sort of transitioning into the topic of, it is so interesting to follow Loki and Sylvie because they are the bad guys of the story. Like, these are the villains, and we never really get to follow the villains for this long. Or I think that is really cool, because in my head before, I was thinking like, oh, they're running from this, or they're trying to fight this, and it's the same kind of experience that you get from, I guess, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where you follow these characters trying to do these things. But it's now the perspective where they don't have the moral guidelines of, oh, I shouldn't kill this person, or oh, I should do this a more ethical way. They're just going full head, doing whatever they want, and it's so much fun. And I love that, and I want more villain content, because honestly, villains are the best characters, always. They're the most emotionally charged. They have very mixed emotions from fans, and of course, it's the most fun character to play because there's so many layers to it. You can do the weirdest backstory, and just thinking for Loki's character, for example, there's so much to play with there. And because it's the god of mischief, there's all these little things you can play off of, and his powers, and just so much juice there. And there's not the ethical and moral holdbacks of I got to be a good representation in society, or oh, I got to be a good role model for other people. It's just do whatever you want. You are just there to get power, and you're going to do everything and anything to get that. And I really like that. And I think that is actually so funny. And I didn't really think about it until just now, I guess. Oh no, I had a little idea that I didn't write down that I was kind of going off of that, but I guess I'll figure that out later. Real quick, oh my god, the music in the show. I really just love what they're starting to play with that. Specifically in the song, I think it's called Dark Moon, the very last song that played during the end credits. I cannot even describe how much I love I just I love it so much, and I love that kind of style of music where I guess it's maybe 60s. I don't really know the genre, but it's just I'm gonna do air quotes old timey music in a way, and it has such a distinct feeling to it. And I love when shows do this big thing, as in for Loki, for example, the ship blows up, and that is what they were trying to get to the whole time, and the big moment, and it just all hope is lost, and then it cuts and goes into that music. I think that is so good. I don't know why, but there's such a weird emotional kind of pulling to that, because you're so invested in this one scene, and then it disconnects and starts playing this music that's a different vibe altogether, but it still has the same like emotional attachment to it in a way. And I've seen that in other movies called The Devil All the Time with great cast, Robert Pattinson, Tom Holland, Sebastian Stan, all great people. And they do a lot of stuff like that in the movie. For example, a little spoilers for this movie, but oh my god, it's a very dark movie. in the very beginning, this Tom Holland's character, we don't see him as Tom Holland yet, but his dad kills himself, and the boy finds it, and then it cuts and starts playing that music and goes into like a different kind of vibe and world. And I think it's a really good transition, and just I don't know why it excites me so much. I think it's one of my favorite things in film and movies and whatever. And going back to what you were saying before, the world building in this is so good. It is so beautiful, and they're really honestly, Loki so far, you can just going the idea of like a supervillain, you can do whatever you want. They're just doing whatever they want, and they're creating, and they're just because they have the opportunity to do whatever they want. There's no restrictions because it's not on Earth, or it's not on Earth. Much to do, and you could really just I don't know, create these crazy worlds and crazy color schemes and all of this, and they're going into like the 60s, 70s with the TVA, and then they're going to Pompeii, and now they're going into 2077, whatever, and they're just having so much fun. And also sort of along the lines of this, I mean, not really, but this makes me kind of mad, honestly. So when the tower's falling and Loki uses his powers to do it up, bring it back up, he doesn't use his powers that often. And as we see so far, he has a lot of powers. But the thing is, why doesn't he use them more often? Because there are so many situations and issues that they could have just gotten themselves out of if one of them just used their powers. And I don't really understand the logic behind that. Like, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like, they could have gotten, like, okay, what's to say? So he reversed the tower falling. Why couldn't he just, I mean, there might be some other laws against his magic and powers, but why couldn't he just use that same power to redo the rocket? Just lift that right back up. Like, what, do you know what, does that make any sense? Is that illegal?
I guess it's just levitating the tower.
But it goes back up. Like it completely, I mean, unless I watched it wrong, it just went right back up. Like it healed itself. Like it didn't break. So
Yeah, I guess the thing is, I don't know, like, I guess the only thing with Loki is his powers aren't really well defined. Like with Thor, not like, but with Thor, you kind of know he's very strong. He has the hammer, he can conjure lightning. Those are his basic powers, right? Hera or Hela. Yeah, the sister, she kind of has the daggers and stuff, and she's really strong as well. But with Loki, he could kind of just do a bunch of different things. Yeah.
Look up real quick what his powers are. Okay. So we have magic, shape shifting, psychokinetic, moving, bending things with your mind, I guess. Superhuman strength, teleportation, and flight. So he definitely could have used his teleportation and flight to just get to the ship instantly and hijack it and then bring it back to Sylvie. There's a lot of things that kind of bother me, but I guess it's also when you're writing these superhero stuff and you're playing around with these characters that have power, there's limitations because you're creating these conflicts which could easily be solved by the powers, but you can't just do that because it's too easy. I guess I understand that, but it's still frustrating anyway. And then going back to, oh, you were going to say something?
No, I was just thinking.
And then going back to what you were saying about the variants in the TVA, that is such a cool thing to play with. I really like that. That's so interesting because, wow, I don't know. I wonder if it's going to connect to why the TVA is set in, is it the 60s or the 70s? What is it?
I think it's like 50s and 60s inspired. That was the vibe I got. But actually my sister had this theory that the she saw it on TikTok actually, but someone on TikTok had this theory that the TVA was actually located in the quantum realm. Which sort of, I guess, in Ant-Man and the Wasp is established to be something sort of outside of space and time, which I think would make sense for the TVA. But yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know if the 50s is just an aesthetic choice by the set designers, or there's a reason for that, or I honestly don't know.
I'm curious to see what happens with that because I mean, for WandaVision, at first it just seemed like it would be an aesthetic, but there was great reasoning behind that, and it's like rooted in her childhood and all that stuff. So there's stuff kind of hidden in with that, or I don't know, but I really like the idea of. I just am curious to see how Loki is going to break that to. Oh God, I forgot it's Morbius.
Mobius.
How he's going to break that to Mobius, and is he even still friends with Mobius? I feel like they have a good relationship. Like I believe Loki really trusts him. Also, I saw this one thing on TikTok. I think it's really cute, honestly. But Loki does the little metaphor, I guess, as a dagger or disappearing dagger is his symbol for love. And at one point, he was it Mobius. Oh God, is it Mobius?
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was Mobius that gave Loki a dagger and it disappeared, or other way around. But there's kind of like imagery going back and forth because of, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
But interesting. I keep seeing all these TikToks about how Loki really seems to trust Mobius and how there is a good relationship. I'm not saying anything, but I'm saying.
So what you're saying is Mobius and Loki will get together? Oh my god, that would be amazing.
Wow. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I said all the topics I had written down. Do you have any other thoughts or?
Just as a brief thought with the music transition, the only thing I wanted to bring up two things. One is the the intro to Loki, the music playing then sort of reminds me of Space Mountain, the music or the music that would play in Tomorrowland, which is the idea of Tomorrowland is essentially, I guess, the 1950s version. If you were in the 1950s, what you would envision the future as. So I thought that was really interesting. And then with the music, the thing that came to my mind when you were talking about that, which is really interesting, was there's the end of The Shining. I won't spoil it, but we have this huge climax with this really disturbing final image, and then we have this old-timey music play over another really disturbing revelation, I guess you would say, and then the music continues to the credits. And yeah, just it just leaves you with an eerie feeling.
Love that so much. And it's funny because when I was writing this screenplay a really long time ago, I never finished it, but I had created a whole playlist for the movie, and basically all the songs in the movie are stuff like that. It has the old timey feel, and just I don't know why, but there's such an emotional power to that music to me. And I don't know, I think it's so fun, especially when you compare it to something really modern or something really dark. It just, ooh, it's so much fun. Like, I don't know if you've seen End of the Effing World, but it plays with that music a lot too, and oh, it's so good.
All right, so I guess those are our thoughts on Loki. It's cool that we're halfway done, and I'm excited to see how it continues. So next, I just want to give my very brief thoughts on the Battlestar Galactica season 3 finale. I'm only 2 episodes into season 4, so I don't have a ton of thoughts there yet. But season 3, I'm not going to spoil it just in case anyone is worried about spoilers, but it ends on a very interesting note, a little bit different from the season 1 and season 2 finales, which ended more on a, I don't want to say downer, but definitely more of a oh my god, bad things are happening to the main characters. Ending 3 sort of ends like that, but it also ends with a couple really interesting revelations. So yeah, I don't know how to talk about it without spoiling. It's very interesting because season 3, I think was probably my favorite season of all 3 of them, of all 3 seasons that I've seen so far. I think it's very interesting because season 1 and season 2's ending just sort of, I don't want to say came out of nowhere. It's essentially they found something or they need to get to something, and that's the finale. Whereas season 3 has been kind of building up to something, and so you finally get to see it play out. It's very interesting, and I think it's very cool what they did with this one character, nicknamed Apollo in the show. I think overall he's been a pretty decent character. He hasn't been one of my favorites overall, but I think the actor is really good in the role. But I think what they do with him is really interesting, and I think really works with what they've set up so far with his character. I think what they this is more to season 4, but what they started doing with the Cylons is very interesting as well, and a little bit of season 3. There's another revelation about the Cylon models, and it's really interesting, and I think really sets up, because we still don't know everything yet. Going into season 4, we don't know everything. And this one character who wasn't there for a while sort of comes back in an interesting way, and you're not sure whether to trust them. Or yeah, I know I'm sounding very vague, but I don't want to spoil it, even though it is a pretty old show. But yeah, but yeah, I think it's really interesting finale, and it's really interesting that there's yeah, just a lot of great characters. I think all the actors are fantastic. It does a great job. It's not just all about fighting evil robots, because even the finale of season 3 is very human. It centers around a trial, essentially, that's not a big spoiler. But it centers around a trial, and which isn't something you got from seasons 1 or 2, which were more about the Cylons in a way. So it's really interesting how the show doesn't just rely on robot battles, but actually really looks at the more human elements and what would it actually mean if humans had to abandon the planet or planets they were on and just try and go on a ship with only a couple tens of thousands of people left alive and try desperately to find a new home. What would that mean for the government systems? What would that mean for the civilians? What would that mean for the resources available? So it just looks at a lot of interesting things like that, even what it means to sort of be human. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting themes in the show, which, even though it takes me forever to watch, I think is definitely why I keep watching, and also because I really like a lot of these characters, and I'm very interested to see where their stories go. So yeah, those are my thoughts on season 3. I'm really excited to see season 4.
Actually, 2 quick questions. I don't know why, but when you're describing it, I get very Blade Runner vibes in a way, just with the replicants and the Cylons. I don't know. That's very similar in my mind to me. But another thing. So, is this a type of show that gets better as you watch on, or does it start off really strong and kind of stay consistent, or dies off a little bit?
So I think Blade Runner is a fair comparison. I think tonally, Blade Runner is sort of more like, not like, but detective neo-noir type, whereas Battlestar Galactica is definitely more, I don't know how to describe it, but military procedures and, go to these raiders and do the very more strategical, if that makes sense. You have commanders, majors, lieutenants, just sort of that, if that makes sense.
So, is it a bit like Star Trek times Blade Runner?
I would say so. Yeah, it's more. Yeah, I would say that it's a good middle ground between those two. But yeah, I think Blade Runner is a good comparison, especially with the replicants. And then, so I think with Battlestar Galactica, I really liked season 1. Season 2 starts off really good. I think around maybe episode 10 to 17, it kind of slogs a bit for me. It's not bad. It's just okay. But then the end of season 2, very intriguing, and then I think it keeps being very intriguing through season 3. So I'd say there's a bit of a dip in season 2, where the character drama and the drama of what was happening on the Battlestar wasn't quite as interesting. But then it gets more interesting in the season 2, at the end of season 2, and throughout season 3.
Awesome. I want to watch it, but I think I want to watch the original one.
Oh.
I feel like that would be more my aesthetic in a way. Like for Star Trek, for example, I really really like the original series of it. It's really, don't get me wrong, the movies are really good too. Honestly, I probably will end up rewatching one of the movies tonight. But I don't know why I really like the aesthetic of just older TV shows. I mean, that's kind of why I've been watching Bewitched a lot lately, just because, I don't know, first of all, Bewitched really holds up well for its time, but I find it really comforting to just be in that old world aesthetic, and the colorization of it and just the way it looks is really aesthetically pleasing. But I think I'm gonna watch an episode of Battlestar Galactica soon. The one you're watching too. Yeah.
So wait, do you mean the original one from the 70s or the? Oh, okay. I mean, I know you're watching a ton right now, so yeah.
Out timing wise, I haven't watched Hannibal in a really long time too, and I'm kind of upset with that. I tried rewatching some of it the other day, but I just gotten out of the groove of it, and it's just such a dark show, and I think it's only getting darker at this point. But I did. Oh my God! Wait, can I talk a little bit about Hannibal?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I just finished season 2 actually, and what a crazy ending! I'm not going to spoil anything, but that show just really came out of nowhere. I mean, you were kind of expecting some of it, but to the extent of what they did just does not make any sense. And the fact that there's another season after that is really confusing, because I've seen some like pictures, I guess, or clips from the ending of season 3. So I don't really know how they're gonna fix everything. And I want to say stuff, but I can't because it's a huge spoiler. But dang, I wish I could say stuff, but I don't want to spoil anything because it's a really big surprise and ending. But I recommend it. Honestly, I need to get back in the groove of it. I'll watch it really late at night just to fit the aesthetic of it. But yeah, it's a good show. It's interesting. I'm excited to see where they go for season 3, and then I'm really excited to watch the movie after Silence of the Lambs. So I need to get on that. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
No, yeah, I was gonna say too, when you do finish it, or because it sounds like you do want to at least finish it. When you do, I think it'd be cool for the podcast or even for whatever if we watch the movie and then maybe I could watch the first 3-ish episodes of the show and then we could talk about it because at least aesthetically, I think the movie and the show seem very different. At least from what I've seen of Hannibal, the show. But this is also so as someone who's watched the movie but never has watched Hannibal, and you're the exact opposite, I think it'd be a very interesting conversation.
I'm excited for that. Honestly, that's one of my biggest motivation factors for finishing Hannibal at the moment, because I'm really excited to see where the conversation goes, you know?
All right.
Talk a little bit about the Mike Birbiglia special.
Yeah, so Natalie recommended after we watched Bo Burnham's Inside, or Bo Burnham Inside, as I think it's called. Natalie recommended to me Mike Birbiglia, My Girlfriend's Boyfriend, which is one of his, I think, earlier comedy specials. Yeah, so I am new to Mike Birbiglia as I was new to Bo Burnham, so this was my first venture into his sort of type of comedy, and I'll just sort of get the ball rolling, I guess. It was very interesting so I guess my standard is John Mulaney, just because he is the only one I've seen previously and seen most frequently. I've seen a lot, I think 3 or 4 of his comedy specials. So Mike Birbiglia was really fascinating in that way because while I don't want to say I laughed out loud a ton, even though I certainly did, I think he was such an amazing storyteller, and the way it all just came full circle was so interesting. And the way I'm so annoyed because I forgot to write it down too, but there was this one thing it was such a subtle thing too that he set up and then sort of brought back later on. I don't know specifically what it was. It was a very small detail, but I was thinking back to earlier how he talked about that. And there are so many things that, he starts off with this story about how he got T-boned and then he brings it all back to that. And you realize, oh, this is where the story was going. So it was really fascinating to me in that way. I think when I was first watching it, I don't want to say concerned, but almost the almost the entire, because when I'm used to with John Mulaney, who has a lot of variety in his comedy specials. Sometimes they'll be about his dad or about his religion or about his wife, or I guess ex-wife. Yeah. So it was really, I don't want to say bothersome, but Mike Birbiglia, this special was all about relationships and past failures. And there were just certainly many moments where I thought it was very funny, but as someone who has never been in a relationship, there were some moments where I was just kind of saying, okay, it's another story about a failed relationship in a way, if that makes sense. So I didn't laugh. So for that reason, I didn't laugh out loud a ton, but still, like when you look back at it and when you get to the ending, you realize every little detail contributed to the story, which was so interesting. And there were tons of funny bits that I'm not knocking or anything, but they just contributed. All of these moments contribute so well to the overall theme of what he was getting at. And so the ending by that extent was so satisfying, and you end up going on a journey with him in a sense rather than just seeing these individual comedy skits. So that's kind of what I got out of it. Natalie, do you agree with anything I said? Do you disagree with everything I said? Or
I agree. He's one of my favorite comedians, specifically because his ability to storytell. He does such a good job, and he is just great comedic timing and all that. Real quick, have you ever seen called James Acaster? That is also one of my favorite comedians, and he has a similar kind of. He's really good at storytelling and does an amazing job at the full circle thing, but it's a lot. I think it's a lot in a way. His newest special pretty sad, but it's really funny at the same time. I honestly, if you were to watch another comedy special in the near future, watch James Acaster. Let's see, it's on Netflix. He has a little comedy series that I think is 3 episodes long. I mean, they're all little. Hold on, James Acaster. James Acaster Repertoire, I believe. It's 3 little things, and he does a really good job with storytelling. They're completely different vibes, each of them, but I really admire his humor, and it has a very similar kind of humor that I want to be in a way. And how, if I were to be a comedian, that is in my head, this could be completely wrong, but it's the combination of Mike Birbiglia and John Mulaney in a way. Not exactly, but also at the same time. But I really like it. It's really funny, and yeah, it's really good. But for Mike Birbiglia, I really, really like his story. And what you're saying about the full circle, he does an amazing job with that. And I was thinking about what I should show you at first, and there's this one special that's only on Spotify, and one of the like, I think the special is called "Sleepwalk with Me," and one of the comedy bits, I guess, my favorite one out of all of it is called "The Missile." And I wanted to show you just like specific pieces of it, but I couldn't because watching it or listening to it all the way through and hearing the whole story and just getting that full circle makes it even better. So that's why I was very hesitant on showing you just that one bit, because it just wouldn't have been as impactful in a way. But I think he does a really good job with just his comedy and everything. And I got to see him live once, and I saw this newish special called The New One, which is about him having his baby. And it's funny because watching all of his comedy shows, you can really see him grow as a person. And I know I mentioned this to you before when I was talking to you about him, but it starts off where he's like basically this young bachelor, doesn't really have any good relationships, doesn't really ever want to get married, all this stuff. And his newest special is him married with a little baby. And I think it's really good growth. And I think it's really cute, and it makes me really happy for him. But yeah, I just think the biggest drawing factor to me, to him, is his ability to storytell, because that is something that you don't really get to see with many comedians. Usually it's just them telling jokes and going on to the next one. It's all very separate. But for him, it always comes back, and it always kind of draws back to a little moment, which gives it more power and kind of makes you think more about the special and pay attention a little bit more. And I really like his vocal control. He does a really good job of making his voice really soft and then bringing it back to being really loud. And his shows always have a very sentimental part to it, but also a very reckless and comedic and just kind of part to it. And I rewatched all of his specials. So he doesn't do the Kenny G impression in this one, does he?
I don't think so.
He does the scrambler. That is one of my favorite bits of his. I don't know why. I think it's really funny, just him talking about the shit your pants-erator and doing the little physical bit of going around the stage and acting as if he was a scrambler and all of that. But he's a very different comedian from anything I've seen before, because for the most part, all of his stories are very dark, and he seems to have a very troubling life in many ways. In some of his other specials, he talks about how he had a tumor and he had to get removed, he had cancer, and like it's all of these things, and it's really funny because I don't know how to describe it, but I really like when he does. He's like, I know, I'm also in the future, and he's just talking about these moments in his past, but he's realizing everything about it after the fact, and the audience is experiencing what he experienced real time, but he's telling it in a way as if he's telling it as if it's just happening or something. I mean, it's really funny, and he does a good job with communicating to the audience and interacting with them in a way. And in some of his other specials, there's this one, I think it's also Sleepwalk with Me, or it could be What I Should Have Said Was Nothing, which is a really good one as well. But he's talking about how he was like I guess he was the host, not a host, but he spoke at this golf convention or tournament, whatever. And at one point he's like, I just want to remind you guys that you're on my side. you're rooting for me in this story. And it's really funny because he knows what's going on is horrible, and he knows that it's just not good, but he's still like, I don't know how to describe it, but I really like the way he tells his comedy, and I really like how he makes you feel like you're in that present moment, which also goes along with the idea where he's just really good at storytelling. And literally, I'm the worst storyteller I know, because I always get things out of order, and I either do like a very detailed section versus a non-detailed kind of fluttery section, and I'm like, oh wait, I forgot another part, and I keep going back and forth all of this. And he doesn't do that. He's just very straightforward and consistent, and he's not doing too much where it gets confusing, but he's not doing too less where you don't know what's going on. It's just the perfect balance, and it's so smooth, and it cruises right through, and all of that. Ugh, I don't even know if any of that made sense. But, so if you were to give him a rating from 1 to 10, or this special from a rating from 1 to 10, what would you give it? I'm curious. And sort of going along with that question, would you watch another one of his specials, or you were like, this isn't really my kind of style of comedy, I don't think I would?
I think I would definitely try another one of his specials. He seems really interesting. I think, I'm not really sure. I'd say I'd probably put it anywhere from a 7.5 to about an 8. So anywhere from there. Yeah, no, because even though there weren't, because I think my biggest personal, I don't want to say critique, was I just didn't find myself laughing as much as I hoped to. That could just be a me thing. Because I think sadly but there was also this relatable element because my relationships have somehow been less successful than his. But I think that's my biggest critique because I think overall what he accomplished, besides that, what he accomplished, he really accomplished just in terms of how well he told the story. And I think that just for me made up for the couple of times I didn't chuckle when I thought I should. So yeah, I thought it was very interesting. I agree the Scrambler story was really funny. I like the little moment where he goes into the audience and pulls up the guy who's not wearing any shoes or something. that was really a cute little improvised moment. But yeah, I think in terms of his style, there's sort of the moment where he says, I know I'm in the future too. I think there's this sort of meta, I don't know what the word is, but meta
Yeah, I know.
quality.
Breaking the fourth wall in a way.
Yeah. Cause I saw a tiny bit of I saw like a tiny bit of I think it was Amy Schumer or someone like that, and there was just this, I guess, lack of self-awareness where she would in her bit she would talk about how she said something mean to somebody, but she didn't acknowledge it as being mean, or you know what I'm saying? Where I didn't watch the full special. I just saw bits and pieces. Whereas I think Mike Birbiglia does a good job of, even with the story where he talks about, I think the story with Jenny and how he kind of, I don't want to say lost it a little bit, but when he kind of lashed out at her for having her ex-boyfriend sleeping at his her parents' house, and the moment where he describes how she need him in the nards, and whisper to him, you deserve this. I could be missing, but he doesn't try to make excuses for himself. He just kind of tells it as it is, and he tells both sides to the story essentially. Or with that one girlfriend who was a bit of a red flag, he also, even though he doesn't really get into her head that much, I think he does a good job. I don't know how to, I know I'm not explaining it very well, but he does a good balance between that sort of self-awareness. Like, yeah, I know I shouldn't have lashed out at her like that with Jenny, and yeah, maybe I did deserve this because he doesn't try to refute it or leave out details that'll make him seem better or anything like that. He really just, or even with the story where he said you get that one. He doesn't try to play it off like, oh yeah, he's like, yeah, I've been on the receiving end of that a couple times. He doesn't try to, or even when he goes along with it, he doesn't try to play it off like he's doing he's has the moral high ground or anything like that, or when he lies about having his first kiss. So I think that was a really interesting, which made him very likable, like what you were talking about. And you weren't put off by things he was saying or doing because he did a great job uh presenting it in a very not neutral way, but sort of that self-awareness where, yeah, I know that was kind of bad, but I was young and just kind of play along with it. Just kind of go along with it because trust me, it'll come back to bite me or something like that. I don't know if that's making any sense. Maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but that's what I felt that just overall that self-awareness, I think, made him a very captivating person.
No, definitely, it does make sense. He's very self-aware, and he really just tells everything. That's what I think is very alluring about his comedy and very funny because I mean, it's not always relatable. Like the stuff he goes through is not the typical thing every person goes through, but it feels relatable in a way. The sad aspect of it is very relatable and very human. Whereas for John Mulaney, his stories are always very out there and very, oh, that would never really happen to anyone. But then there's also truth to it where it's like the group of eighth graders that make fun of how you look is very like real in a way. But for him, it's all very not, they're not small things by any means, but it's just very so desperately honest. And I love how self-aware he is. And in his other comedy specials, it doesn't really focus as much on the relationship aspect of it, but it's just focusing on like moments of his life and his family in a way, and just the stuff that happens to him. And I think that the big part of it is because the stuff that happens to him is just so horrible. It is hilarious. I don't think he mentions it in this special, but he has a sleepwalking disorder. No, honestly, you gotta watch or listen to. Hold on, I have to find the one Spotify. I think it's literally one of the funniest things in the world because of how absurd his comedy is. The Sleepwalk with Me special on Spotify is so funny. And in the new one, he mentions how his sleepwalk is so bad and so dangerous that he can't sleep in the same bed as his wife and can't sleep in the same room as his baby. And so he created the sheet for himself where he's cut a little head hole for him, and there's like a zipper that only zips from the outside, and it's just like him tucked in the sheet that's like really like stuck to the bed so he can't get out. There's just no way of him getting out of this bed when he's sleeping. And it's just like that doesn't happen to anyone really. Like it's just the craziest stuff, and I think it's so funny, and it's really good. But if you were to watch a next comedian or comedy special, I strongly recommend, because I know you really like John Mulaney, and if you do like the storytelling aspect, or if you like Mike Birbiglia a little bit, James Acaster, the first one on his special called Repertoire, called Recognize, I think. It is so funny, and there's so many good full circle moments and little jokes that he goes back to, and he's a great storyteller. But the thing I like about him is his stories aren't real. It seems very just, I don't know, that's the really fun thing I like about it, because it's more than just like, it's literally a combination between John Mulaney and Mike Birbiglia in a way, because John Mulaney's comedy and his own stories are very out there and just wouldn't happen to a normal person, and Mike Birbiglia's does seem or is very accurate to his life and very relatable and not extreme or not ridiculous, where there's some person talking about a duck splashing in the rain, or I don't know. And so James Acaster is right in between all of that, and he has very dry and sarcastic kind of humor to him. And I think it's so funny. And I have one of his books, and I'm trying to read it right now. And he's just, I don't know, I really, really like him. And it's really good. But yeah, that is okay. So my top comedians: Mike Birbiglia, John Mulaney, and James Acaster. I think those are my top three out of everything, honestly. And also another funny little thing is Mike Birbiglia, John Mulaney, and Nick Kroll were all friends. They all went to the same school and knew each other. In one of Mike Birbiglia's special on Spotify, John Mulaney introduces him on the album. So I think that's really funny and a nice little Easter egg. Also, real quick, have you seen Oh Hello on Netflix?
I have, yes.
Love that one. It's interesting. I love Nick Kroll too. Good comedians, funny people. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Anything? Ooh, my goodness. Anything else you want to add or mention quickly about the special?
Not really. Just that I wrote down Sleepwalk with Me and James Acaster. Yeah, but overall, I think hearing you talk, I don't, if you're looking to just laugh out loud, slap your knee the whole time, I don't think the special is for you, if anyone's listening. But I think if you're looking for, there are definitely a lot of funny moments. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong at all. But there are a lot of times where I was very much laughing. But if you're looking for just a really well told and very human story that, like you said, even though they're not things that happen to everyone, like not everyone has a near death experience. But if you're just looking for such a well told story and just to go on this amazing journey that does have a lot of ups, but also a lot of emotional downs. There were a lot of moments where I was like, I would go, oh, or just gasp or something because I felt so bad for him in the moment.
Yeah.
I think the special, so that's I think why I would put it around a 7.5 to an 8. I know that's a very specific range, but yeah, I think those are that was, again, I have one comedian I've only ever watched, so so I'm just exploring outward to sort of see what I'm doing, because I guess what makes you laugh is a very subjective thing. I would say not all someone's favorite comedy film might not be my favorite comedy film, or I think it's the same may go for comedians. Just some might be more of someone's style versus not my style, or not your style, or so yeah, I think Mike Birbiglia is a guy I definitely want to check out more of, just because I think he is such a great storyteller, who also manages to put a lot of comedy into his specials. And so yeah, those are my thoughts. Yeah. So in terms of next week, we have not officially decided on anything yet. I have a couple of ideas. Again, we put timestamps in the description, so when we post the next episode, you'll get to see when we talk about whether it's a movie or a show. I'm watching this anime right now called Parasite the Maxim. I'm a little more than halfway done, so next episode I'll probably talk about it. Yeah, and then
I'm watching that too. I can also watch a bit more. I don't know how far along I am, but if I finish it, where I can be the same as you are, and we can talk about that too. That would be fun.
yeah, definitely. Maybe another movie. Who knows? Yeah. So also I'll probably plug this in the timestamp, the description. Follow me on Letterbox. If you want to see some of my other movie thoughts, maybe just my more comprehensive ones. Maybe there's a movie I've watched that we didn't get to. So yeah, Natalie, do you want to plug in any socials in the description or?
Don't really have any.
Okay, yeah. No, I just thought because it's related to what we talk about. So yeah, that's about it. Any final thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, yeah, if you want a great storyteller to listen to, Mike Birbiglia is your guy. Um, Definitely loving Loki so far, and I love hearing Jordan talk about Battlestar Galactica. And I gotta watch it. I really, there's literally so much stuff I need to watch, and it's so frustrating. But I'm also so excited because it's officially summer. We've graduated high school. We're now college freshmen, technically, sort of. So I'm just soon I'll be have or now I guess I have so much time to watch so many different things. And yeah, that's my finishing thoughts. Thank you so much for listening, watching. Give us a like, subscribe, comment any suggestions or ideas or things you want us to talk about next. And yeah, thank you so much. Wow.
Bye.